The text came at 3:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. Don't come for Christmas this year. Alex just got promoted to attending surgeon. We're having a celebration dinner. Family only. We're celebrating real achievement. You understand? I read it twice. Not because I didn't understand. My mother's messages were always painfully clear, but because I wanted to memorize every word. Evidence. Not for court. Just for myself. Proof that I wasn't imagining things. That the favoritism wasn't in my head. That my mother really had just uninvited me from Christmas because my sister had a new job title. My phone buzzed again. Also, your father says hello. I almost laughed. My father says hello. Like that softened anything. Like a secondhand greeting from a man who hadn't called me in 8 months, made up for being told I wasn't welcome in my childhood home. I was sitting in the sunroom of our house in Greenwich. The December light was pale and watery, filtering through the floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the back garden. Harrison was in the city for meetings, but he'd be home by dinner. We were supposed to fly to Aspen the next morning. 2 weeks at the ski house, just the two of us, before the chaos of the new year began. I looked at my mother's text one more time. Then I typed back, okay, that was it. One word. No argument. No guilt trip. No desperate plea to be included. Just acknowledgement. I knew it would drive her crazy. My mother thrived on conflict. She wanted me to beg, to cry, to give her ammunition to use against me later. Caroline is so dramatic, she'd tell her book club. She made such a scene about Christmas. You know how she is. Not this time. I set the phone face down on the table and went back to my book. Let me be clear about something. I wasn't always this calm. For most of my life, I was exactly what my mother wanted me to be, desperate for her approval, constantly competing with my younger sister, measuring my worth against Alexandra's achievements, and always coming up short. Alex was the golden child, valedictorian, pre-med at Johns Hopkins, top of her class at Columbia Medical School. She was driven, focused, and ruthlessly ambitious in a way that made our mother beam with pride. I was the other one. I'd majored in art history. I'd worked at galleries after college, earning just enough to afford a studio apartment in Brooklyn with 2 roommates. I'd dated artists and musicians and one disastrous poet who'd stolen my laptop when we broke up. I'd been everything my mother considered unserious. Then I met Harrison. It wasn't a fairy tale. We didn't lock eyes across a crowded room while violins played. We met at a client dinner. I was working for a gallery that was trying to sell him a Basquiat, and I spent the entire meal arguing with him about whether contemporary art was a legitimate investment vehicle or elaborate money laundering. He called me the next day, not to buy the painting, to continue the argument. 3 years later, we were married. Quiet ceremony, 40 guests, no announcement in the Times. Harrison hated publicity, and I hated my family, so a small wedding worked for everyone. My mother didn't come. She said she had a conflict. Alex was presenting at a medical conference that weekend. In reality, I think she was just angry that I hadn't consulted her on the guest list, the venue, the dress, the groom, or anything else. That was 5 years ago. In those 5 years, Harrison's company had gone public, making him one of the youngest billionaires in tech. We'd bought the house in Greenwich, the apartment in Manhattan, the ski place in Aspen. I'd started a foundation focused on arts education for underserved communities, funding after-school programs in 37 schools across the Northeast. But to my mother, I was still the daughter who didn't have a real career, the one who'd married some computer guy instead of becoming somebody. She didn't know about the IPO. She didn't know about the houses or the foundation or any of it. I'd stopped sharing my life with her years ago, after one too many conversations where she'd found a way to make everything about Alex. So when she texted me not to come to Christmas because my sister was a surgeon now, all I felt was tired. Not hurt, not angry, just tired. I spent Christmas in Aspen with Harrison. We skied during the days and cooked elaborate dinners at night, just the two of us in a house big enough for 12. On Christmas morning, I video called my father-in-law, Richard, who was spending the holiday with his new wife in Palm Beach. He asked about my family, and I said they were fine. I didn't mention the text. Some things weren't worth explaining. New Year came and went. January was busy. board meetings for the foundation, planning sessions for the spring gala, the usual chaos of trying to run a nonprofit that actually accomplished something. February brought the news that changed everything. Harrison had been having chest pains for a few weeks. He'd dismissed them as stress. His company was in the middle of a major acquisition, and he'd been working 18-hour days. But I'd insisted he see a doctor, and the doctor had insisted on tests, and the tests had shown something that required immediate attention. It's called aortic stenosis, the cardiologist explained. The valve that controls blood flow from your heart is narrowing. You need surgery to replace it. Harrison, ever the pragmatist, asked about timing. The cardiologist said sooner was better than later. Within the month, ideally. Where? Harrison asked. Who's the best? The cardiologist gave us 3 names at 3 different hospitals. Harrison's assistant researched all of them, compared outcomes, looked at reviews and success rates and every possible metric. The winner was a surgeon at Presbyterian Hospital in Manhattan. Top of her field, youngest attending in the cardiac unit, published researcher, the whole package. Her name was Dr. Alexandra Brennan. I stared at the name on the screen for a long time. You know her? Harrison asked, noticing my expression. She's my sister. Harrison blinked. In 5 years of marriage, I'd mentioned my family maybe a dozen times. He knew there was a sister, knew we weren't close, but he didn't know the details. I'd never wanted to burden him with them. Your sister is a cardiac surgeon? Apparently. And she's the best option for this procedure? I looked at the data his assistant had compiled. The numbers didn't lie. Alex had the highest success rate, the fewest complications, the best outcomes. She was, objectively, the right choice. Yes? I said. She is. Harrison studied my face. He knew me well enough to sense there was more to the story. Is this going to be a problem? I thought about it. Really thought about it. My sister was about to operate on my husband's heart. The same sister who'd spent our entire childhood being held up as the example I could never match. The same sister who'd gotten our mother's love while I got her criticism. The same sister whose career achievement had been used to uninvite me from Christmas. Was it going to be a problem? No, I said finally. She's the best surgeon. That's what matters. Harrison nodded. Okay, set it up. The surgery was scheduled for the 3rd week of February. Presbyterian Hospital had a VIP wing for patients who required extra privacy, separate entrance, private suites, dedicated nursing staff. Harrison's assistant had arranged everything. The room, the security, the confidentiality agreements. What she hadn't arranged was warning Dr. Alexandra Brennan about who her patient's wife would be. I could have done it myself. I could have called Alex, broken 6 years of silence, told her that her VIP patient was my husband. It would have been the mature thing to do, the reasonable thing. I didn't do it, partly because I was focused on Harrison, on the surgery, on the very real fear that something could go wrong and I could lose him. Partly because I didn't owe my sister anything. She certainly hadn't reached out to me in the past 6 years. And partly, if I'm being honest, because I wanted to see her face. The day before the surgery, Alex came to the private suite for the pre-op consultation. I was sitting in the chair by Harrison's bed, holding his hand, when the door opened. I saw the white coat first, then the clipboard, then the confident stride of a doctor entering her domain. Then, I saw her face. Alex had aged in the 6 years since I'd seen her. Not badly. She was still beautiful, still polished, but the stress of her profession showed in the lines around her eyes, and the gray streaks in her hair she'd stopped bothering to hide. She walked in looking at her clipboard, already talking. Mr. Ashford, I'm Dr. Brennan. I'll be performing your valve replacement tomorrow. I wanted to go over the procedure and answer any questions. She looked up. Our eyes met. The clipboard froze mid-gesture. Her mouth stopped moving, the sentence unfinished and hanging in the air like a broken promise. I stood up slowly, still holding Harrison's hand. Hello, Alex. She stared at me. I watched the confusion transform into recognition, then recognition into shock, then shock into something I couldn't quite identify. Panic, maybe, or horror. Caroline? It's been a while. Alex's eyes darted from me to Harrison to the room around us, the private suite with its mahogany furniture and fresh flowers, and view of the Manhattan skyline. The room that screamed money in a language she'd never learned to speak. You're You're the wife? I am. Of Harrison Ashford? The tech guy? The billionaire? Yes. The word landed between us like a grenade. Alex's face went through several more expressions. Surprise, calculation, reassessment. I could practically see her recalibrating everything she thought she knew about me. Mom never said. Mom doesn't know. How could she not know? It's been in every business publication for the past 3 years. Mom doesn't read business publications. She reads medical journals and sends me articles about Alex the surgeon. I kept my voice neutral. Besides, I don't think she'd recognize my married name. I'm not sure she remembers I got married at all. Alex opened her mouth, then closed it. For the first time in our lives, she had no idea what to say. Harrison, who had been watching this exchange with the calm interest of a man who'd negotiated billion-dollar deals across conference tables, decided to intervene. Dr. Brennan, I understand you're my wife's sister? Alex swallowed. Yes, I am. Excellent. I've read your research on minimally invasive valve replacement. Very impressive work. I'm confident I'm in good hands. Thank you, Mr. Ashford. Harrison, please. He smiled, and I watched Alex struggle to reconcile this charming, handsome man with whatever image she'd constructed of my husband. I have to say, when Caroline told me her sister was the best cardiac surgeon in the city, I was skeptical, not because I doubted your credentials, but because Caroline so rarely mentions her family. Now I understand why. The words were pleasant. The subtext was not. Alex's professional mask slipped back into place. I assure you, Mr. Harrison, whatever personal history exists between my sister and me will have no bearing on your treatment. You'll receive the same standard of care as any patient. I would expect nothing less, though I hope you understand if I require some additional assurances. Harrison gestured at me. I'm rather fond of my wife. I'd hate for anything to complicate the proceedings. Of course. I can arrange for a colleague to be present during the procedure if that would make you more comfortable. That won't be necessary. I just wanted us to understand each other. They looked at each other for a long moment. Two people who were very good at reading others, taking each other's measure. Alex broke first. She looked down at her clipboard, cleared her throat. Well, let me walk you through what to expect tomorrow. She delivered the pre-op consultation like the professional she was. Clear, thorough, reassuring. She explained the procedure, the risks, the recovery timeline. She answered Harrison's questions with patience and expertise. She didn't look at me once. When she finished, she shook Harrison's hand, nodded in my general direction, and left the room. The door clicked shut behind her with a soft, final sound. Harrison waited until her footsteps faded down the hall. That's your sister? That's my sister. She seemed tense. I laughed despite myself. She just found out her failure of a sister is married to one of the richest men in America. I imagine her worldview is experiencing some turbulence. You're not a failure. I know that. You know that. My mother's text messages suggest otherwise. Harrison pulled me down to sit on the edge of his bed. His hand found mine again, warm and steady. Are you okay? This is a lot. I'm worried about you. Your surgery. Everything else is just noise. Caroline. I mean it. My relationship with Alex, with my mother, that's old damage. It doesn't matter right now. What matters is that she's a good surgeon, and tomorrow she's going to fix your heart, and then we're going to go home and live our lives. And if she wants to talk, after, then we'll talk. Or we won't. It's up to her. I've spent my whole life chasing my family's approval. I'm done with that. Whatever happens next, they have to come to me. Harrison studied my face for a long moment. Then he smiled. Have I mentioned lately that I love you? Not in the last hour. Oversight on my part. I love you. I love you too. Now get some sleep. You have surgery in the morning. The surgery lasted 4 hours. I spent most of it in the private waiting room, surrounded by leather chairs and pastoral paintings and a coffee service that nobody touched. Harrison's assistant came and went with updates. His father called twice from Palm Beach. His CFO sent flowers. I sat alone and waited, my hands wrapped around a cup of tea that had gone cold hours ago. The door opened. Alex walked in, still in her scrubs, a surgical cap pushed back on her head. She looked exhausted. the deep kind of tired that sinks into your bones. I stood up immediately. Is he? He's fine. Surgery went perfectly. We replaced the valve with minimal complications. He's in recovery now, and you can see him in about an hour. The relief hit me so hard I had to sit back down. My knees simply refused to hold me. Thank you, I managed. Thank you. Alex nodded. She stood there for a moment, like she wanted to say something else but couldn't find the words. Then she turned toward the door. Alex, she stopped. Do you want to sit down? Just for a minute? She hesitated. I watched her weigh the options: escape versus confrontation, professionalism versus whatever this was. Then she sat down in the chair across from me. We looked at each other, two sisters who had once shared a bedroom, a childhood, a set of parents, two women who had become strangers. Why didn't you tell me? Alex asked finally. About Harrison. About all of this. Would it have mattered? What do you mean? I mean, would you have treated me any differently? Would Mom? If you'd known I married a billionaire, would Christmas have suddenly been open to me again? Alex didn't answer. We both knew what the answer would have been. You want to know something funny? I said. When I met Harrison, I didn't know he had money. I mean, I knew he wasn't poor. He was buying a Basquiat, so obviously he had some cash. But I didn't know about the company, the investments, any of it. He was just this guy who liked to argue about art and made me laugh. That's how you met? Over art? I worked at a gallery. He came in, didn't buy anything, called me the next day to continue a debate we'd been having about whether Basquiat was overrated. We talked for 3 hours. He asked me to dinner. The rest just happened. Alex was quiet for a moment. Mom said you married some tech guy. She made it sound like, I don't know, like he was nobody. To Mom, anyone who isn't a doctor or a lawyer is nobody. That's not her fault. It's just how she sees the world. But a billionaire, it doesn't matter, Alex. That's what I'm trying to tell you. The money doesn't change who I am. It doesn't make me more worthy of Mom's love, and it doesn't mean I suddenly achieved something real. I'm the same person I was when I was working at a gallery in Brooklyn, barely making rent. I just have a different address now. Alex leaned back in her chair. She looked older suddenly, like the exhaustion was finally catching up to her. Mom texted you about Christmas, she said. It wasn't a question. She texted me not to come because you got promoted and they were celebrating real achievement. Alex winced. I didn't know she was going to say that. But you knew she was going to uninvite me. Silence. She asked me who I wanted there. Alex said quietly. I said just close family. She interpreted that as, I didn't think she would actually tell you not to come. I thought she'd just not mention it and hope you didn't ask. She's never been subtle, Alex. You know that. I know. She shook her head. I don't know how we got here. We used to be close, you and me, when we were little. Do you remember? We'd stay up late talking, making plans for when we were grown up. I remembered. We'd shared a room until Alex was 10, and we'd spent countless nights whispering in the dark, dreaming about futures we couldn't imagine. In those days, we'd been allies against the world. Then we'd gotten older. Then the comparisons had started. Then Alex had become the star, and I'd become the cautionary tale. We were kids, I said. Kids don't understand that their parents are capable of playing favorites. We didn't know what Mom was doing until it was too late. She wasn't playing favorites. She just wanted what was best for both of us. Alex, come on. She stopped, looked at me, really looked at me. You got praised, I said, not unkindly. I got criticized. You got funded. I got lectures about wasting my potential. When you got into medical school, Mom threw a party. When I got my first gallery job, she asked when I was going to get a real career. I paused. That's not me being dramatic. That's just what happened. I didn't ask for that. I know you didn't. But you didn't stop it either. You let her hold you up as the example and me as the failure, and you never said a word. Not once in 20 years did you ever say, "Hey, Mom, maybe lay off Caroline." Alex's face flushed. That's not fair. Isn't it? I was a kid, and then I was in school, and then I was in residency, and I was barely surviving myself. I'm not blaming you, Alex. I'm just telling you the truth. We all made choices that led us here. Mom chose to favor you. You chose to accept it. I chose to stop fighting for scraps of attention from people who'd already decided I wasn't worth it. I stood up, suddenly tired of this conversation. Harrison's going to be awake soon. I should go. Caroline, wait. I stopped at the door. I'm sorry, Alex said. For Christmas. For all of it. I didn't realize how bad it had gotten until I saw your face in that room today. The way you looked at me. Like I was a stranger. Like I was the enemy. Her voice cracked. I don't want to be your enemy. I turned around. My sister was sitting in that leather chair, still in her scrubs, tears running down her face. Dr. Alexandra Brennan, top cardiac surgeon, the pride of the family, crying in a hospital waiting room. I should have felt vindicated. I should have felt triumphant. After years of being overlooked and dismissed, here was my sister finally seeing me, finally understanding what she'd been part of. Instead, I just felt sad. You were never my enemy, Alex. You were just my sister. That was the problem. You stopped being my sister somewhere along the way, and neither of us noticed until it was too late. It's not too late. We could try. We could. I took a deep breath. But not today. Today I'm going to sit with my husband while he recovers from surgery. And you're going to go home and sleep, because you look like you're about to collapse. And then, maybe in a few weeks, if you want to have coffee or something, you have my number. Alex nodded, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. I'd like that. Okay then. I left her there in the waiting room. I had somewhere more important to be. Harrison recovered beautifully. 2 weeks in the hospital, then home to Greenwich for another month of rest. The spring arrived early that year, and I spent long afternoons pushing his wheelchair around the garden, watching the tulips bloom and the trees bud, and the world come back to life. Alex and I had coffee in early April. It was awkward and stilted, and neither of us knew what to say. But we made it through an hour without fighting, which felt like progress. The real test came in May. Alex called me on a Thursday afternoon. Her voice was strange, tight, controlled, the way she got when she was trying not to feel something. Mom had a stroke. I sat down heavily on the nearest chair. What? This morning, she's at Presbyterian. I had her transferred to my unit. She's stable, but it's serious. The next 48 hours are critical. Is she going to be okay? I don't know yet. I'm doing everything I can. I thought about my mother, the text messages, the uninvited Christmas, the years of criticism and comparisons and casual cruelty. I thought about the woman who'd read me bedtime stories when I was small, before Alex was born, before everything got complicated. I'll be there in an hour. The hospital room was smaller than Harrison's had been. No private suite, no mahogany furniture, just a standard room with beige walls and fluorescent lights and the steady beep of monitors. My mother looked tiny in the hospital bed, smaller than I remembered, older, more fragile. Her face was slack on one side, and her left arm lay motionless on the blanket. My father was there, looking lost in the way men do when their wives get sick. He stood up when I walked in, surprised to see me. Caroline? You came? Of course I came. He hugged me. Awkward. Unfamiliar. We'd never been close, my father and me. He'd always deferred to my mother on parenting decisions, which meant he'd deferred on the favoritism too. She's been asking for you, he said quietly. In and out of consciousness, but she keeps saying your name. I looked at my mother's face. Even in sleep, even paralyzed on one side, she looked stern, critical, ready to find fault. I'm here now, I said. Alex appeared in the doorway, still in scrubs, still exhausted, but moving with the calm efficiency of someone who'd been trained to handle crises. She's stable for now. The next few days will tell us more about the long-term prognosis. What are the options? Physical therapy, speech therapy, rehabilitation. It's going to be a long road, but she's a fighter. If anyone can recover from this, it's Mom. My father made a sound. Half laugh, half sob. She is stubborn. Always has been. We stood there, the three of us, looking at the woman who'd shaped our lives in ways we were only beginning to understand. The woman who'd built walls between her daughters without realizing what she was doing. The woman who'd loved us, probably, in her own limited way. My mother's eyes opened. They were unfocused at first, then sharpening as consciousness returned. She looked at my father, then at Alex, then, finally, at me. Her mouth moved. The right side worked. The left didn't. But I could still understand her. "Caroline." "Hi, Mom." "You came." "Yeah, I came." She kept looking at me, and I saw something I'd never seen in her eyes before. It took me a moment to recognize it, because it was so foreign to her face. Regret. "I was wrong," she whispered. The words were slurred, effortful. "About you. About everything. I was so wrong." My throat tightened. I'd waited my entire life to hear those words. I'd imagined this moment 1,000 times. The triumphant confrontation. The moment my mother finally saw me, finally admitted what she'd done. Now that it was here, all I felt was grief. "It's okay, Mom." "No." She tried to shake her head, managed only a slight movement. "Not okay. I was cruel. You deserved better." "Mom, your husband, Alex told me. I didn't know. I never asked. I should have asked. I should have seen you." I glanced at Alex. She looked away. "I'm sorry," my mother said. "I'm so sorry, Caroline." I took her hand, the one that still worked, and squeezed gently. "I know, Mom. I know." She closed her eyes. The effort of speaking had exhausted her, but her hand stayed wrapped around mine, holding on like I was the only solid thing in a world that had suddenly become very uncertain. I sat with her for hours. Alex came and went, checking vitals, consulting with other doctors. My father dozed in the chair by the window. The monitors beeped their steady rhythm. Around midnight, Harrison texted me. "How is she?" "Stable." She apologized. "Really? Really? First time in 30 years. How do you feel?" I thought about it. How did I feel? "I don't know. I'll tell you when I figure it out. I love you. Take all the time you need." I looked at my mother's sleeping face. The woman who'd hurt me, dismissed me, made me feel worthless for decades. The woman who'd finally, in a hospital bed with half her body paralyzed, found the words she should have said years ago. Too late? Maybe, but maybe not. Maybe it was never too late to start over. Maybe the fact that she'd said it at all meant something, even if the timing was terrible. Maybe forgiveness wasn't about getting what you deserved. Maybe it was about deciding what you were willing to carry. I wasn't sure I could forgive her. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But I could sit here. I could hold her hand. I could be present for whatever came next. That was enough for now. My mother recovered. Slowly. The stroke had taken something from her. Mobility on her left side. Some clarity of speech. But it had also taken something else. The sharpness. The criticism. The constant, relentless judgment that had defined her for as long as I could remember. In its place was someone softer. Someone who cried at commercials and said, "I love you," at the end of phone calls, and asked about my life like she actually wanted to know the answers. I didn't trust it at first. I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop, for the real Judith Brennan to resurface and start picking me apart again. But weeks turned into months, and the softness remained. "She's different," Alex said one afternoon. We were having lunch at a cafe near the hospital, something we'd started doing every few weeks, building a relationship from the rubble of the one we'd lost. I know it sounds crazy, but it's like the stroke rewired something in her brain. She's not mean anymore. Is that medically possible? Strokes can affect personality. It's documented. But honestly, I think she was mean because she was scared. Scared that if she wasn't perfect, wasn't successful, wasn't better than everyone else, she'd be worthless. And the stroke took away her ability to maintain that facade. So she's nicer because she's weaker. She's nicer because she finally realized the facade wasn't protecting her from anything. It was just pushing away the people she loved. Alex looked at me. Both of us, in different ways. She never pushed you away. She put me on a pedestal. That's its own kind of prison. I spent 30 years trying to live up to an impossible standard, terrified that if I ever fell short, I'd lose her love completely. Alex laughed bitterly. And the whole time, you were the free one. You got out. You built your own life, your own identity, without her approval. I'm still stuck here trying to be the perfect daughter, and I'm 36 years old. I'd never thought of it that way. I'd spent so long envying Alex, wanting what she had, that I'd never considered what she'd given up to have it. We're both pretty messed up, aren't we? Completely. But at least we're talking about it now. She raised her coffee cup. To being messed up together. I clinked my cup against hers. To being messed up together. Christmas that year was at the house in Greenwich. My mother came in a wheelchair with my father pushing her. Alex came, exhausted from a shift but smiling. Harrison made his famous prime rib and told bad jokes and charmed everyone, because that's what Harrison did. At one point, I found myself in the kitchen with my mother. I was getting more wine. She was just sitting there, looking out the window at the snow falling on the garden. "It's beautiful here," she said. "Thank you. You built a beautiful life, Caroline. I'm proud of you." I stopped with the wine bottle in my hand. In 35 years, my mother had never said those words to me. Really? Really? I should have said it years ago. I should have said a lot of things. She turned her wheelchair slightly to face me. "I was jealous, I think. When you were young, you were so free, so creative, so unbothered by what other people thought. I didn't know how to handle a child like that. I only knew how to handle achievement, metrics, things I could measure. Alex made sense to me. You were a mystery. So you tried to make me more like Alex. I tried to make you less scary. You were so different from me, Caroline. I couldn't understand you. And instead of trying harder, I just pushed you away, made you feel like you were wrong for being who you were. I'm not wrong. I know that now. I knew it then too. Somewhere deep down. I just couldn't admit it." She reached out and took my hand. Her grip was weak, but it was real. "You're not wrong. You were never wrong. You're just you, and that's exactly who you should be." I stood there, holding my mother's hand, while the snow fell outside and the sound of Harrison's laughter drifted in from the dining room. I'd spent my whole life wanting this moment, needing it, and now that it was here, I realized something unexpected. I didn't need it anymore. I'd built my own life, my own worth, my own sense of who I was. My mother's approval was nice. It was healing even, but it wasn't necessary. I was whole without it. That was the real achievement. Not the money, not the houses, not the foundation or the marriage or any of it. The real achievement was learning that I was enough. "Thanks, Mom," I said, and I meant it. She smiled. Half her face still didn't work right, but the smile was there. "Merry Christmas, Caroline. Merry Christmas." I poured 2 glasses of wine and wheeled her back to the dining room where our family, broken, rebuilt, imperfect, was waiting. We'd wasted so many years, but we had now. That would have to be enough.